go straight to questions? John, you want to start?
Sure. This guy you're facing tomorrow, he's the number one, right?
He's, 1, 2, or whatever. He's definitely, worthy of all the praise and attention that he's gotten. And I think what impresses you as much as his talent, which is very impressive, obviously, just his commitment to his teammates and how he celebrates those guys, and his leadership for a young player has been really, really impressive on top of what he can do individually.
Is he a problem in the transition game?
Yeah. I mean, he's a problem in every facet of the game, but he certainly can distort you in ways that a lot of people can't because of his size and his versatility and his fluidity. And, typically in your transition defense, your guards are going to be, the ones that are stopping the ball, and he can create, an automatic mismatch from the jump just because he has the ball in his hand so much.
How do they play around him?
Yeah, they do a good job of, getting them in space and, put shooting around them, and just, he's evolved as the years went on, and again, he really is, for as dynamic a scorer as he is, he's gotten better as a facilitator. And again, at this point, I mean, you could basically label him as a point guard for him. I mean, the ball will be in his hands, 75% of the game, the other 25%, maybe 60-30, but in Rob Wright's hands. But yeah, they do a good job, and his pick and roll decision making and reads has gotten better with his size, and he's a challenge for sure.
One more on him. When you study the tape of teams, try smaller guys, bigger guys, variety?
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, I mean, like anything with a player of his magnitude, I don't think one diet is going to be, people have tried to put smaller guys on them, and okay, maybe we can get up under them, and that has its challenges. And then you put bigger guys on them. Okay, well, let's put some length and some physicality on them. That has its challenges. And I mean, at this point in time in the season, he's seen just about every coverage imaginable. So you got to do a good job of mixing coverages up on them. And then, like with all those guys, and obviously something he does a really good job of is you don't want to foul them, and try to keep them off the foul line. Don't let them get into a rhythm that way. And then, no different than with great players and great offenses, you don't want to give them multiple chances on the same possession.
I don't want to ruin your day, but there have been three number ones that have played here. 3 of the 4 have scored 30 or 40. Could you stomach him scoring 30 or 40 if the other guys don't get theirs?
Yeah, I think that's the question, right? That's the challenge when you play a player like him is, do you try to, I mean, I would say like allow or let him is probably a bad term because you ain't never going to try that, but he may do it anyways. But do you play him individually and allow, like you said, not allow him, but live with, okay, if he gets 35, 40, or do you try to shrink gaps and live with, okay, are these other guys going to make shots, And so that is the challenge, and that is the question, because he's shown the ability to do both. He's shown the ability that he can beat you both ways.
So pick your poison, I guess.
Ish.
You've praised the morale of your group by and large throughout the season. How is it after having lost 3 straight?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, obviously, the initial aftermath of any of those losses is in the locker room. You're going to be disappointed. But, there's no again, it's mature enough. And I think even from a leadership standpoint, it's hard not to just fall in the trap of, like we talked about before, you win, you're great. You lose, you're terrible. We've been fortunate enough to win some games, one-possession games, that easily could have went the other way. And all 3 of these last games that we've been in easily could have went our way, but they didn't. But again, you're not looking at an insurmountable mountain to climb. You're literally looking at it, a block out here, a free throw there, a rebound here, a made shot here, a missed shot here. That's the difference in what you're dealing with. And do you have the the emotional intelligence and the maturity to stay the course, stay together, which this group does better than anybody I've been around, and still find a level of excitement in what you're doing every day. And that's where, if you love basketball and you love each other and you love challenges, then you're going to be in the right place, and there's going to be a certain level of excitement even in the midst of disappointing times.
What does it say about this league, the fact that you're probably playing 3 of the top 3 players in college basketball, all in a span of a few months?
Yeah, I've kind of said it, it's the 3rd best basketball league on the planet, in my opinion. Like I said, the NBA and the Euro League, and then, you got the Big 12 this year, and 3 of the top 5, and then you want to throw in Coapede and Sanac, and then you start getting in some other fringe lottery areas, and that's not even to mention, Christian Andersons and, Emmanuel Sharps, and just guys that'll also, be in the NBA. So, yeah, it's incredible, and the challenges are night in, night out, and great coaches, great players, great venues, and it's again, if you like opportunities and you like challenges, then you're obviously in the right league.
Coach, after the game the other night, your first reaction was the defense. It was a bad night for the defense. After having a chance to really study it and watch it, what did you see? And
You talking about the Oklahoma State game?
yes.
Yeah. I thought it was our worst defensive half of the season, which it was. The first half of that game, and really, if you strip it down a little further, it was the end of the first half. The last 4 minutes, it was 32-30 going into the last 4-minute segment of that first half. They go on close it, and now you're down 13. By and large, our second half defense was actually really good, and that's what got us back in the game, got us in the lead. And I did feel like that was the first time late in some games that we had lost close games, that it was hard to pinpoint necessarily like some things we did wrong on the defensive end of the floor. Like, we played several plays which I would classify as, like, did you play the play the right way or the wrong way regardless of the outcome? Sometimes you can play the wrong way and you get fortunate. Somebody misses a wide open shot. At the end of the Oklahoma State game, I thought we had some really good defensive possessions, and I thought Clary in particular made some very difficult step-back threes really for the first time this year in a game that we've lost, that I haven't felt like, we had fundamental defensive breakdowns down the stretch that contributed to it. I mean, we switched. Belo had him pinned in the corner. He had a step-back 3 in the corner. One time he had a step-back 3 over Jasper, where he, contorted his body and fell down and spun at the same time. And you got to tip your hat a little bit, in particular in that segment. But in the first half, our point of attack defense wasn't good enough guarding the ball. We didn't guard the ball good enough in transition. Some of that was Jasper's foul trouble, and then some of it was just other guys not executing and just not simply not doing what they've been taught to do.
That hasn't been something you've had to worry a lot about.
Yeah.
So do you see it as just a bad night, or?
Well, the Oklahoma State is a very good offensive team. Like, offense hasn't been their issue on the year, and so I think what also can happen in games like that, it's because it's no secret we can go through stretches where we have hard time scoring. Well, we were scoring it pretty easy to start that game. We were getting really good looks, and you can get even a team or you can get lulled into we'll play this way, like you can score and we can score, and then all of a sudden you're not scoring and they keep scoring. So I thought that was more some of it was who we were playing and their strengths as a basketball team, and then B, some of it was just getting a little bit of foul trouble distorts who you're playing and where you're playing and how you're playing, and then just not having the attention to detail to guard the ball in transition. That's where a lot of the defensive breakdowns began. It was just right off the jump.
All right, the same thing's true with this one too. Try to avoid going up and down.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's if you're going to pass the ball ahead and Honor's wide open, you're always shooting that shot. Philosophically, you want to do that. I think what can't slip up is your defensive intensity and the urgency at which you're defending on that side of the floor, regardless of what's happening on the offensive side of the floor. But yeah, they're obviously a great offensive team, even despite the loss of Sanders, and have two of the best players in the Big 12 on the floor at the same time, and other guys that are aggressive and can shoot the ball around them. So yeah, it'll be a challenge.
Russ, these coaches that have come from the NBA, you already played Jensen and now Kevin Young. Do they do anything different than college guys?
Not necessarily. I'm not sure about their routines and stuff like that. You probably have to kind of ask them about that. The game itself is not too much different than what you're seeing across the board. I mean, it kind of really is a copycat industry, and trends and trends that work in the NBA kind of will get adapted, and so there's not anything that you see them do outside of maybe a wrinkle out of a timeout that you haven't seen, which a lot of people do, but that was pretty good, but most of it, it's maybe manipulating some of the spacing at times, which again I think a lot of people have adapted that in the college game, and so not necessarily.
Just basketball is basketball.
To a certain degree.
Russ,
It sounds a little bit like your offense affected your defense, like playing really fast and then maybe weren't great on defense. Kind of what you're saying?
I wouldn't say the tempo at which it was played at. I was saying maybe for a team that's not used to scoring the ball very easy, which we got to call balls and strikes at this point. We call spades. But I thought early in that game, if you think about that game in particular, shots were going in early. Jasper hit his first three. Trey hit an early three. I think it was more the ease at maybe some of the shots that were going down as opposed to the tempo or the timing of the shots themselves.
Which leads me to this, that you're right, scoring is not as easy as it was. But you did some things, at least it looked like it, like you took early shots. The other guys were not hesitating, looking to pass first. They shot right away.
Yeah.
How do you thread the needle here of, here are the good parts of it, and maybe it wasn't our best and isn't our strength.
Yeah.
Let's try to bring that forward because it worked,
Yeah.
and maybe it's a new development. It continues. That seems like armchair analysis. That's difficult balance right now.
Yeah. Again, and I think so much of it is who you're playing can dictate a lot of that stuff, and how they're playing people. Oklahoma State to start the game, for instance. They double teamed Harlan, which we've been able to generate good open looks out of double teams. So they double teamed Harlan, he kicks it out, and Jasper is wide open. We're always going to shoot that shot. I think the challenge becomes how quickly can you get that shot against different teams, and you may not always be able to get that level or that quality of a shot that soon. Second possession, Honor comes off a ball screen with Belo. The man that's guarding Trey squeezes all the way to the nail, and Honor's able to kick it out to Trey, and Trey's wide open. And we always want those guys to shoot that. I think maybe some of it, to your point, maybe some of the hesitancy or maybe some of the lack of aggression is the discernment of when am I open and when I'm not, and a lot of that can happen on how you're being played.
It looks like-
Robertson, what you were talking about, switching defensive tactics, not doing the same thing every time, is that the biggest challenge when you have to mix it up so much? The communication to your players and making sure everybody is making those switches, however you're doing it, calling it, makes versus misses, whatever the triggers are.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to really over-communicate at that point in time. And, we call it like, echo relaying. Like we're not super concerned if maybe the other team knows what we're doing or not doing. We just want to make sure that our guys know what they're supposed to be doing. And, yeah, if you're in a situation where one possession, okay, we're double teaming, and the next possession we don't want to double team, and does everybody hear that and everybody process that? It is very important.
Is that more difficult to practice this late in the season, maybe when you're not going up and down as much? It's just got to be a mental threat thing that when you go through those?
Some of it, because at this point in time, maybe outside of like a special wrinkle you want to run offensively, or most of the things that you're doing in these games, you've at least attempted at some point in time in another game and have a baseline understanding. But to your point, the game can break you down, and I've mentioned this before. Weirdly enough, sometimes when you're at home, it's harder to communicate defensively when the crowd really gets into it, and calling out your coverages and making sure that everyone knows what's happening, because the crowd's typically going to be at its loudest if you're scoring and you're making a run and they're trying to help you defensively. That's when the home crowd's going to be the loudest. And can you hear and can you really, really communicate clearly with each other what you're supposed to be doing so you don't have breakdowns?
Is there a difference between this team now than 3 games ago when they had Richie Saunders? Is there a difference at all?
Yeah. You can't, and Coach Young's done a great job, kind of reinventing themselves on the fly. And, they've dealt with some other injuries throughout the course of the year as well. And there's not so much like there's certain actions that, they would run for Richie Sanders and things of that, but just his experience as a whole and his physicality and, what he meant to that program and what he meant to the Big 12, it's going to be hard to replace.
Coach, we're basically in March now, so everyone kind of gets into that resume comparison kind of thing. You've kind of been on both ends of this story in that, mid-major schools, it's hard for them to schedule. And a lot of times the big teams don't want to play the mid-majors. And so they'll run off 25, 26 wins, and everyone will say, well, you didn't play anyone. Mm-hmm. And then there's teams in the power conferences, they're, 500, a little bit, and everyone will say, well, they played such a much greater schedule, but their record isn't as good. So you've been on both sides of it now. What are your thoughts on who should get the edge in that type of conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Even when I was on the other side of the equation, I guess you'd say, I always kind of knew what it was. So to spend like too much time having an opinion on something that I don't have any control over, like I'm not trying to skirt the question, but like, when we were at North Texas, again, what the criteria is. They lay it out pretty clearly, what their criteria is and what they value, and there's always going to be some level of subjectivity to that, and there's always going to be, some teams that, get left out and felt like they should have been in. One year at the time we won. This was when I was at Colorado State in the Mountain West, and we won 27 games, and we got left out. And at the point, we had the best RPI in the history of RPI at that point in time. It wasn't the net yet. And so I've been on that side of it and been on the sides where you get at-large bids. And, I think I don't really have a strong opinion on whether, a team that's 26-0, or, Miami of Ohio is a great example. They're having an incredible season. Like, should there be some level of reward for what they've done and how impressive it is? Yes. But that's ultimately it's not for me to decide. I'm thankful to be in a situation where we get multiple opportunities. I am thankful for that. And even as frustrating and disappointed as these last couple of losses have been, you still are in a situation where, you can do your ultimate goals if you do what you need to do because of the opportunities that are going to be presented to you in the next couple weeks, starting tomorrow.
Is the Miami of Ohio, is it interesting at all, their story, what they've done so far?
Yeah, yes. It's, again, I haven't watched them. I don't know Coach Steele personally. I know his story, and again, I think that's always impressive when maybe something doesn't work out the way you want it to, and you're able to, pick yourself up off the mat and do what he's done, and what that program's done. It's amazing. It really is. I don't care who you're playing, where you're playing, to win as many games in a row as they have had is very impressive.
Ross, their game on Tuesday, I forget. The first 25 minutes, horrible, right? They shot it like crazy. The final 15, they played.
You talking about theirs? Yeah.
Yeah, and like no turnovers in 15 minutes. I'm sure you pay attention to what went wrong. A lot of that maybe UCF. Did the final 15 minutes get your attention, your locker room's attention, that maybe something woke up here?
Yeah, and again, to Coach Young's credit and that group's credit, that wasn't the first time they've had a big deficit this year that they've faced and responded. In some cases, they won the game, and maybe some other cases they didn't get all the way over the top of it. They were down 22 against Clemson and came back and won. They were down big to Arizona at home and got that game all the way back to a possession or two late. And so, to me, you get a chance to find out a lot about people and programs and everything when you're in those moments of, adversity. And, they've responded in those moments, to their credit.
Sounds familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Did you get a feeling from your guys that the defense was maybe like a one-off? Like, they're not going to play that all the time, they think. The second half is more like the way they played. No more victory, I understand that. But you said they bounced back pretty quickly from this. Just not their condition to it, but they know that was bad, and they know they proved they were capable of it better in the second half, too.
Yeah, and some of it is, again, we've now played 28 games together, and I think there's a standard and expectation that they've embraced as well. And at this point in time, when they see film or they're watching a game in that manner, on some levels they can communicate to themselves at the same rate that I can communicate to them the mistakes that were being made and the areas where they came up a little short.
Anything else? Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank y'all. Y'all have a good one.